Okay. So it looks like I was on mute that whole time. So let's try this again. Welcome to Pan African Perspectives. My name is Joe Hitagwa. I am the founder of Authentic African. And what we do here is we dive into the real life experiences of visiting Africa, investing in the continent, moving to the continent, investing in African ventures and land, with the ultimate goal, all with the ultimate goal of advancing Africa and restoring it to its rightful place on the world stage. Our mission is to support an independent Africa and empower African people on the continent and in the diaspora. So I'll share my experiences living, traveling, and investing in Africa. And from time to time, I'll also be interviewing others who've made the move. Today, we're going to talk about a really challenging, really challenging few days since being back in Sierra Leone. If you can't tell, it's been really terrible, challenging times. So we'll talk through all of it here in a moment. But first, before we get started, I'd like to hear from you guys. Can you hear me? And if you can, give me a thumbs up and let me know where you're watching from. Can you hear me? So give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me, and also let me know where you're watching from. Excuse me. I know my connection is a bit crazy, so I apologize for that. If you were on the live stream yesterday, you heard all about it. I'm in Sierra Leone right now. For those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you might be familiar with this background, right? I am in Pearl Hotel. So shout out to Pearl Hotel, the folks here at Pearl Hotel who have agreed to allow me to go live and live stream from their location. It's been an interesting one. For sure, but you know, Pro Hotel never disappoints, and they always allow me to live stream from here. So I'm in the penthouse here, really nice, nice penthouse suite here. I like to shout them out because, you know, for months, almost an entire year, almost every single Monday, they allowed me to live stream from here. And now that I'm visiting, they let me do it yesterday and today. So I do want to just throw that out there to begin with before we get into everything. So if you decide to come here and it's within your budget, I definitely recommend staying at Pearl Hotel. So where do we begin? You know, it was, you know, from when we landed to Sierra Leone, problems started from the beginning. So yesterday, if you were on the live stream with, exposing Sierra Leone, when we go live with, Sierra Leoneans killing it, we talked about some of the things like flying with Royal Air Maroc and my luggage not making it to Sierra Leone. I do want to report, and I'm happy to report, there is one piece of positive news, is that luggage was retrieved and today. And I also got my American passport. Funnily enough, I got my American passport in Sierra Leone. I know it sounds strange, but I did. So those two things happened today. But let's start with when we landed. So we landed and we got to the house, and the power was on, but unfortunately I was unable to turn my power on. Meaning the way it works in Sierra Leone, for those of you who aren't as familiar, is you have a meter, of course, and that meter has to be topped up. You have to add money to it because it's pay-as-you-go internet. Most services here are pay-as-you-go. They're a lot less trusting with the idea of you paying at the end of the month, considering the financial circumstances of many folks in the country. I just want to shout out Afro Career, by the way, for saying that you guys can hear me. And so I had sent money ahead of time, and it wasn't topped up, and so I could hear it beeping. But of course, my house help wasn't there. The caretaker who normally is on property, he wasn't there to assist with this process. And so we said, okay, well, let's go to turn on the generator. As you guys might remember, when I was living here in Sierra Leone full time, I was often using my generator more than I should have been, but I was often using the generator because light was super sporadic and not very, consistent. So, you know, I go to turn on the generator, and, you know, you have to pull a drawstring like you do on a lawnmower. If you guys ever seen those lawnmowers, the old school lawnmowers where you'd have to pull the thing and it gets the engine going, and you can, so the generator works in the exact same way. And I pulled it twice, 1, 2, and then the third time it just stopped, right? And so I'm like, okay, great. So I'm trying to call this guy, can't reach him. By the way, I'm not able to reach him until 11 p.m. that evening. So, okay, fine. We're going to deal with no light. It is what it is. I've done that before, but I am also with my mother who, she is in her golden years, and it's not an ideal scenario to be in a place where we have no light. And when we first arrived, we arrived early in the morning. So we actually had gone to her friend's house who gave us some food. And we expected to get to the house, put it in the fridge, heat it up later. So we had food for the evening. Well, that didn't work out because, of course, we had no light. And so the refrigerator wasn't working. We didn't have light until yesterday. And yesterday, meaning Sunday, and we got in on Friday morning. We didn't have light until, not yesterday, later Saturday evening. So it was just one thing after another. Finding out that my bag didn't make it. That was the first piece of not so great news, landing at the airport, getting home, not having any electricity. And look, these are first world problems. There are people who can't even fly in and out of Sierra Leone. There are also people who don't even have electricity at all while living here. So I do want to be very clear that I am grateful for the fact that I do have the ability to travel in, and from time to time do have the option to make sure that there is power. But it is more than just an annoyance when you don't have any power. Forever says Couche. What's up, Forever? Couche. So, it was challenging. And so, not having a suitcase is one thing. One of my 3 suitcases that I paid extra for, which, by the way, I just got today. I came in on Friday. Today is Monday. And then, of course, not being able to have light. Internet was very, very poor that evening. So I wasn't even able to be productive to kind of schedule this live stream and do other things that night, which I had a plan to do. I had an entire day planned of things that I was going to do internet wise to help kind of get through this weekend and into this week to remain productive, to stay on schedule. So as we got home, we come home to a house full of mildew. Now, when I say a house full of mildew, don't take it lightly. I didn't do a good job of filming it all. It was just kind of a crazy day. I got to work cleaning. But we're talking about mildew everywhere. We're talking about the keyboard that I left here that I usually connect to my laptop when I'm here. We're talking about in flashlights. We're talking about all of the clothes that I left here, in suitcases, in duffel bags, in my closet. I mean, it looked like it snowed in the apartment, in my closet. It was all over the inside the closet. That was the worst place. In my mom's closet as well. It was disgusting. I'm paying about $70 to wash all the clothes that were impacted by the mold that was everywhere. Not only was it there, but it was on the walls and on the ceiling. And you see how this ceiling light is, the way they set this up, where it is removed from the ceiling, it's dropped from the ceiling. This particular light here. Mine in my apartment is not like that. It's actually into the roof. And what happened is so much water got in there. The light bulb exploded, and whatever fluid is in there was like in it and dripping out. So if you look at the light bulb, it's like, maybe I'll take a picture of it and I'll share it on a further live, on a future live, but it was just all over the place in there. And so, it's on the walls, it's on the ceiling, it's all over the clothes. On my shoes that I had here. It was a mess. And so, I just got into cleaning mode and just started cleaning. And then, my caretaker who finally came, we spent a few hours yesterday, going through and cleaning it. It was not great. And so it was just like one thing after another, right? And it's one of those things where, you know, I love Sierra Leone, and you know, and I do eventually plan to spend, you know, 90+% of my time here, or at least 60+% of my time here. And I'm setting myself up to be able to do that, and, you know, to travel around different parts of the continent, and, you know, to come back differently from how I first came here. But it's weeks like last week that remind you why so many people are trying to escape, right? Why so many people are like, why would you go from over there and come here when we're all trying to go over there? And, you know, dealing with all of those things was kind of a reminder of why I'm grateful to having the blue passport and being able to move back and forth between countries. Yeah, appreciate it forever. Yeah, so I mean, it was pretty wild to see that. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. And I didn't do it, you know, guys, you know, even though I have this YouTube channel and I vlog, my first instinct isn't always like to get the camera out and film, because that's never been my thing. You know, I've always been more on, you know, I live in the moment. And so I didn't get the camera out and vlog it. I did get some video of the ceiling, because I was actually trying to share that with my contractor, my new contractor, to figure out what it is that we can do to fix it. And so, like, let me see if I can just share it with you guys so you can see it. Yeah, so if you guys, is it easily viewable? Yeah, let's see if you could see. You see that? That was the ceiling. That's what the ceiling looked like. And that's not even the worst of it. It's hard to tell because that's supposed to be white. Like, that's white paint, but you see all that black? Yeah. That is what the walls and the ceiling looked like. It is, I mean, it doesn't look like that anymore, but that was what we were dealing with, right? You can kind of see a video of it. It was just all over the ceiling and on another wall there. But anyway, you guys got the idea. And so, you know, obviously not an ideal scenario, right? And so we paid a pretty significant amount of money to tile the roof. And unfortunately, and I was told by everybody, it's like conventional wisdom. If you tile the roof, you don't deal with water damage inside the house. That is if the tiling is done correctly. Now, shout out to Sangbei. What's up, man? Unfortunately, my old contractor was terrible at selecting subcontractors to do certain things. That would be plumbing, where you guys might know this, but like my plumbing we had to break through a wall and fix all the plumbing. The original electrician he had been working with was terrible. And the mason or whoever it is, the tiler, was also terrible. None of the instructions that I gave were done, and water was still seeping through. And so in the house that I'm in right now, of the, what was it, 17 or 16 or so light bulbs, four of the 16 work, I think it is. So no, sorry, 6 of the 16 work. That's including the outside light bulbs and all of the inside light bulbs. Only 6 of the 16 work. And so, you know, it was just one of those situations where it was like, what else is going to happen? Like, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so, you know, luckily I had my AirTag in my bag, and I at least could track the bag, and I knew that it was coming, and I saw when it landed in town. And so that was one piece of good news. But the reason why I titled the video this way, and I started off explaining this to you all, is because I use it because I want to make sure that you know what I went through, so you don't have to go through the same thing. This is not to discourage people from investing on the continent, especially you, like people like Sangbei and others who have traced their lineage back to Sierra Leone and got their Sierra Leonean citizenship. It's also not to discourage you from Sierra Leone. It's just to make sure you know who to work with and how to work with folks if you decide to invest in real estate and start to build. There are actually like waterproofing solutions that can be used as part of the mixing of the cement so that these things don't happen. So this is Well, no, I haven't. So, by the way, Forever is asking what part of Sierra Leone. We have property and land out there, and maybe can refer you to my mom's contractor. No, I appreciate that. I actually do have a really good contractor now, who I actually brought on not yesterday Sunday, but the previous Sunday to discuss the building that fell in Shell on the East End, and he could talk. He talked it through, and he brought on. He was the one who brought on the engineer who's the one who does a lot of inspections. So as of right now, I feel like I'm all set on having a contractor, but I would love to get any other names of folks that you think are reputable so that I can recommend them to folks as well. Sangbei says trust but verify. Absolutely. So, the thing is, if you guys might remember with last week when we talked about that situation that happened with the house falling, we also at the end talked about Herman, the gentleman who was like a mentor of mine, who is Ghanaian, that was spending a lot of time in Sierra Leone, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. He actually had utilized my former contractor for some work he had done at his house. And so that was the reason why I selected that contractor as someone to work with. I later found out, though, that he held Herman in such high regard, and for whatever reason, was not as careful or didn't take the same approach to the work he did for me. And so you guys might have heard me talk about that previously, but I'm a very diplomatic person. I believe in nonviolent responses to things. So I didn't respond in the way that people wanted me to, and that I could have with him, because he was very disrespectful in the ways that he would talk about how he wasn't going to do stuff that I asked him to do when he talked to other people. And there are ways that it could have been handled that I chose not to do. So God has spared that man's life. But anyway, not life. Whoa, never say that. But just, his general well-being. I would never do that. I'm a nonviolent person. I approach everything with nonviolence. But, it was just a reminder of, just pay the extra cost for commercial companies to do the work. Don't work with an independent contractor, even if like a smaller independent contractor, even if someone recommends them to you, unless you've like seen multiple pieces of work that they've done and you feel confident and comfortable with it, and still work with them slowly but surely on different things so you can get them out of the situation before it's too late. Because, that contractor just continued to do things without not according to plan, not listening to my recommendations. And then if it's something we agreed on, he'd make a change and not tell me. I have a whole vlog on why I fired him. And I go through all of the things that he did wrong in that video. And then you'll see some video with my new contractor. But that's the reason why I wanted to go through all of that. Like yesterday, we talked about what you should do. First of all, don't book Royal Air Maroc. That's my piece of advice that I would give to you all. I went to their offices today. The people are very pleasant here in Sierra Leone. The people at Royal Air Maroc on the plane itself and at the airport, generally unhelpful. We have people waiting for 35 to 40 minutes for wheelchairs, right? When you come off a plane, they come over with wheelchairs. Those folks who need the wheelchairs, they wheel them to the gate. Yeah, we just walked because it was gonna be over an hour before we got someone. And so we ended up getting one eventually. And we got to our gate right before they started boarding, like literally within 10 minutes of boarding. Sorry, yeah, less than that. Yeah, like within 5 minutes of boarding. When we got to the airport, we got there early enough that we should have had an hour and 30 minutes before boarding, just for context. And so that was the first lesson that I would tell you guys all based on my experience. And then also my bag, of course, was left at Mohammed V International Airport until yesterday. And so that would be what I would say. And, I came in on Friday. So that'd be what I would say for the first piece. And then the second piece is, as Sangbei said, trust but verify, but also separately from that, when you're meeting with a contractor, you want to know, do they have an electrical engineer? Do they have an electrician? Do they have a plumber? Do they have architects? Who are all the people? Do they have a full team? Even if they outsource pieces of it. You want to meet those people. You want to talk to those people about what their plans are for the house once they see the architecture. You don't want to just be speaking to one individual. That's why I went wrong on my last contractor. This contractor brought everybody to the site. I talked to 3 or 4 different people who here's the foreman that's going to be on the site. Here's my engineer. Here's another architect that I have. And so I was very confident and comfortable with what he could do. I also stayed in a property that he built over a 2.5 week period. So I'm also familiar with the kind of work that he does structurally, like a full structure that he had done. And so that was why it was so easy for me to select this contractor. Obviously, he's more expensive than my previous contractor, but it's worth it to pay for him because you get the level of professionalism that I come to expect now, and you know, you get people who are willing to discuss the challenges and solutions, and ensure that, you know, we're all working towards a common goal. So anyway, shout out to Sierra Leoneans killing it, and Myers on here saying, I'm sorry, friend. Appreciate it. Shout out to everybody else who's joining the live on Instagram. So Sierra Leone Homesteader says, welcome back home, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, so that was what I wanted to tell you. It was quite the experience, you know. But you know, as someone who had frequented Sierra Leone, you know, since from 2017 to 2023, from 2017 to March of 2023. So that's only 6 years, but over a 6-year span, I had come to Sierra Leone twice a year or more over that time frame. And then I lived in Sierra Leone full time for a year. So I'm used to challenges and frustrations, but I always come back because I do think it's important to state that even with all those challenges, I still love the country. And you know, and I do want to see us do better and be better. And so I do try to highlight the country as much as I can, even on a platform that's called Authentic African, not Authentic Sierra Leonean. Because the goal is to talk about a country as small as Sierra Leone and what some of the challenges are, but some of the benefits. You know, some of those challenges also pose benefits, meaning with so few contractors that do good work, if you're somebody who's in that space, you can come here and basically change the game, take over. Yeah, obviously, you're going to need to build up a network and get to know people and things like that, but that now makes you in high demand and you can charge a premium for those services. And so that's the biggest thing about a country like Sierra Leone. There are so many challenges, but you can see them as challenges or you can see them as solutions. You know, there's a story about a shoe salesman that went to, just pick a country in Ghana, let's say, in Africa. Pick a country in Ghana. Pick a country in Africa. And he went there and, you know, the shoe salesman said, you know, nobody wears shoes here. How am I going to sell shoes? And then he left the country and said, there's no opportunity here. And then the next shoe salesman went there and said, wow, nobody wears shoes here. There's so many shoes that I can sell. Right. And so it's really through what lens you decide to look at things, you know, that really can determine what your experience can be like here. And so I can think about all these things as challenges and just say, I'm going to give up and get out of here. Or I can see it as, because so many people have given up and all of that, that means that I'm one of the few people that people can come to for different services and things that they need, which then makes me more in demand and allows me to have a platform like this. You know, there aren't very many people who do this kind of content. And so I can make an impact and draw a crowd and generate some income in the process. Right. So that's why I always tell everyone the good, the bad, and the ugly, but also I want you to know that, you know, these things should not necessarily be deterrents. They should just be, if they're not going to be deterrents, you should use them though as lessons to make sure that you don't have to go through those things. You know, Joe did that, so you don't have to go through that, as a prolific poet once said by the name of Sean Carter, not Sean Combs. Okay, cool. Any questions, comments, thoughts on everything I just talked about just now? It is late over here. It's 9:30. I'm so used to it being 5:30 after having been in the States for the last how many months? 6, 7 months, going live at 5:30 my local time, wherever I was. I was mostly in New York and in Florida. So now being back in Sierra Leone, it's 9:30. And I have to take transport to go back home because my vehicle isn't currently available to me. So, but yeah, so those are the things that I would like to say. Things that I would make sure I would just keep in mind for you all. Let me see if there was anything else that I was meaning to talk about that I did not cover. I did have a list of topics. I just went off the top of my head with that. Oh, the generator talking about that. The mildew to talk about that. The water damage to the lighting system. I talked about that. The power outage. I talked about that. But I also did figure out the hold on one second. How many of your items have been damaged? In some cases, items may require repackaging. Oh, here's some more interesting news. There was a leak at the storage facility in California. I just got an email about the leak at the storage facility in California that my stuff in my storage was damaged. Okay. Sorry. Just random, but thought I'd tell you that. It's been one of those weeks, right? When it rains, it pours, literally, right? Anyway, okay. So Sierra Cam channel says, thanks so much to share your experience. You're welcome. I think it's really important for people to know what you expect here. And so, sorry, I got off on a tangent, but I did want to say, you know, I joke about these things sometimes. It might seem a little hyperbolic though, when you see the thumbnail and I say terrible experience. But it was though. I mean, if we're being honest, it was. I mean, you don't want to walk into a house and there's mildew everywhere. So although sometimes I can joke about it, I mean, that's obviously terrible for your health. And, you know, it's something that had to be taken care of right away. And the possibility of it coming back, right? I have to now spend some money to correct the work that my previous contractor had done. But it's also important for me to share these things with you guys so you don't go through these same kinds of issues, or at least you can reduce the potential for these kinds of things happening to you. I don't want you guys to have to deal with this stuff. I have a friend that's moving out of an apartment right now. She was in an apartment that had just recently been built. This is her first rainy season in that apartment. It's the first rainy season since that building has been built. And she has a mold issue. Another friend of mine, they have mold in their house as well. Wow, look at that. I didn't even notice. This shirt is going to need to be sewn. So yeah, I mean, these are just things that you have to know, take into consideration, and make sure you pay attention to things like this so you can help mitigate those kinds of damages if possible. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on anything I've talked about so far, or anything from the conversation we had yesterday? I don't know how many of you were on the live stream we did yesterday with Admire from Sierra Leoneans Killing It, when we talked about the travel expenses, the electricity, the internet service providers. I think my internet's a little bit more clear today because I'm not using my phone as a hotspot, but I'm actually using the Wi-Fi here at Pearl Hotel. So you guys will have to let me know. It does seem like I am freezing a little bit though. But you guys will have to let me know how the internet experience is working for you. But any questions, comments, thoughts from anybody in the audience? Anything that I haven't talked about yet? Oh, by the way, with my caretaker, Musa is asking, are you in Sierra Leone right now? Yes, I am. I am in Sierra Leone right now, and I will be here for a little while. Days more, put it that way. Yeah, so I am in Sierra Leone. I'm in Freetown at this very moment. And as of right now, I'm at Pearl Hotel, the hotel that I've interviewed the manager of, stayed here, and gone live from this place many times, many times before. Um, is it about doing bad business in Sierra Leone or just bad conditions of operating there? Yeah, Musa, it was about the experiences here. So yeah, I would definitely one thing, I don't know if everybody knows this though, but if you join later and you're catching this part of the live stream, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually take the cursor of the thing that's tracking across the screen, you can drag it all the way to the back so you can start from the beginning. I didn't even know that until like a month ago. And so I would join a live stream and not know that you can go back to the beginning. So just so you know, you could do that so that you can catch everything from the beginning. I recommend you do that, so it makes it a little bit easier to kind of catch up. Lewis is asking a great question. Lewis is asking, when are you back in Ghana? That's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Ghana on this trip. I'm not going to be in Ghana until the end of the year. In December, I'm going to Ghana. Lots of unfinished business to do. A Slime 2 said, my man, you do move around. Hard to keep up with you. You know, I'm an international traveler, man. You know, that is, you know, like it's funny because, you know, I spent my formative years in my 20s really wishing that I could spend more time traveling to different places. And I've gone a couple places in my 20s. But in my 30s, you know, I visited something like 16 or 17 countries. And I guess in my 40s now. I'm technically in my 40s as of this moment. But yeah, so yeah, I do move around quite a bit. I do plan to spend about a month in total throughout the year. 4 months total throughout the year outside the United States on the continent of Africa, whether that's between Ghana and Sierra Leone, potentially Nigeria. I'm also looking at going to Kenya as much as possible too. And Lewis is saying Dirty December. Yes, as that's what the people call it. My Decembers are very clean Decembers for me. But yes, I will be going to Ghana during what people call Dirty December. Yes. But yeah, so and I'll have to tell you what that experience will be like going back to Ghana after all this time. The last time I was in Ghana was in October, late October of last year. So it's been a while. It's been over a year since I've been to Ghana. And I'm really missing that place. I'm looking forward to going back. It's been a wild year, as you guys know, those of you who've been following along. So I'm looking forward to going back to Ghana. Yeah, you know, my laptop crashed right before I went to Ghana last year, so it was challenging times, and that was also you know, a factor of a couple different things where I learned my lesson on that as well. Well, you guys heard about that. Yeah, any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay. A Slime Tube says, God willing, I'll be there end of October. Be spending time in Lunge, Bo, Kenema, and McKinney. Okay, nice. I'll be going to Bo this week, as a matter of fact, for the funeral. So you guys might know, we spoke about that last week. But I'll be going to Bo this weekend. So enjoy yourself. Are you going to be buying land? What are you doing? What are you doing in all those places? Because I do know Lunge, Bo, and Kenema are areas where, but Bo and Kenema are places that are kind of up and coming in terms of buying real estate, and some people are catching on. But Lunge is a place that everybody's talking about buying because, of course, the airport is there, and it doesn't seem to be moving anytime soon. What are you doing there, though? Shout out to the folks at Traverse Culture. Kia Wakesho Simmons is in the house. How is it going? It's been going. It's been going. She's in Kenya right now, where things run a lot smoother. I just had a friend that just came back from spending a month in Kenya, and now she wants to move there. So, you know, it has been going, but you know, it's you know, all lessons that I've learned from, and I'm just trying to pass on to the folks here. It's been an interesting few days. I'm just happy to get my suitcase back. That was big for me. Like, the contents of that suitcase and also getting the suitcase back was really, really important. So I'm glad I was able to do that, because I don't know what I would have done if I didn't get it back. So Musa is asking, do I have any connections to companies in Sierra Leone that want to lease land in Freetown? Do I have any connections to companies in Sierra Leone that want to lease land in Freetown? They want to lease the land? Not that I can think of right now, but maybe you can give me the land that you're trying to lease and what you want to lease it for, and potentially we can promote that for you. Ace Lime Tube says, how about an acre in Bow? Trying to pick up some more. Have about an acre in Bow. Me too. I have 5 acres in Bow. So good idea to buy more land for sure. I recommend everybody do it. You know, if you have a 401k, if you have investments in the stock market, I also say you should invest in land too. If that's a thing that you already do. I'm not saying empty your 401k and invest in land now. I'm just saying if you already do that, then I say do this too. It appreciates over time, especially land here where it's dirt cheap, and at some point, sometimes it just skyrockets, and you just want to be earlier in that wave than anybody else. Lewis says, I just got pictures of the roof in my house in Ghana, so I'm very excited. Shout out to you. Congrats on that. That's a big deal. Traverse Culture saying, send her our way. So if you want to lease land, but Traverse is saying send them your way. But I think it's in Sierra Leone and Freetown in particular. Wait, is that? Oh, I know what you're talking about. My friend who wants to move to Kenya. Yes, I will send her your way. She's a Sierra Leonean, so you'll have to do that consulting session with her to let her know whether or not she qualifies for the move. But she's going to be moving. Yeah, she'll talk to you about that. Asset protection, don't forget that part. Yes, for sure. Land is great for that. Be very careful with that. Leasing land in Salon is, that's what Salon Dev said. Be very careful with that. Leasing land in Sierra Leone is, okay. So here's a question. Sierra Cam Channel says, please, what can you suggest to a traveler when it comes to lodging? Is it better to Airbnb, or do you have a good idea about a hotel? Thanks. It's a great question. So in general, anywhere, as a former Airbnb host, soon to be Airbnb host again, and a frequent Airbnb guest, I am a big fan of house sharing sites. It doesn't have to be Airbnb. It can be VRBO, whatever. Pick a place, whatever it is. However, you need to know how to look for your Airbnbs. Every country is different, and every process is different. And sometimes you need to be aware that some people are going to sell you a lemon, and it's hard to change it once you're there. It is not too difficult to have some friends create accounts and make it look like they stayed somewhere at the place, and then also say good things and positive things. So I always recommend, if you're going to choose an Airbnb, choose a super host. There aren't a ton of super hosts in Sierra Leone, so there's very few of them. Choose a super host and choose a location from that super host that has a pretty significant number of reviews and 5-star reviews. And if there are 4 and 3-star reviews, read those to understand what those are. And if they responded to those reviews, it's all helpful to give you context about the person you're dealing with. So I'll definitely say that. When it comes to hotels, they tend to be a bit, most people would say they are pretty expensive for the country that you're in. That would be what I say people normally tell me. They say they're overpriced. So some hotels are as high as $250 a night. Some are $120 a night, and some are as low as $20 per night. It all depends on the hotel. And so, what you can do, you can always choose an Airbnb that's a 5-star, and then you can go look at hotels if you decide you want to maybe potentially try the hotel route. That's one way to do it. Or you just bite the bullet and spend a night at one of the nicer hotels, and then you go check out, talk to some Airbnbs and try to check out the area at least that the Airbnb is in, because you can't look exactly at the address, but it gives you like a radius of where it is, so you can kind of go check out the streets and look at things and see how the houses are built there to decide if that's something you want to do. That is my recommendation for sure. I definitely think it will behoove you to, especially if you're new to coming to Sierra Leone often, it behooves you. Where am I? How am I talking like this? But it definitely would make sense for you to check out these places first before you definitely book it. All good questions, good comments. Anything else? Sorry, guys. Up till 2, up at 6. That was my life last night. So, yeah, it was a very late night, very early morning. Cool. Any other questions, guys? No questions. You guys have to let me know if there's any other questions. Okay, it's a good question. A Slide 2 has a question about conveyance. How do you obtain a conveyance? So, depending on where you are in the country, it does differ from place to place, some places at least. Here's my experience, because I've only actually purchased land in two places. One was in Freetown and one was in Bow. In Bow, in order to get a conveyance, you have to do a couple of different things. You have to have a surveyor go check the land, a licensed surveyor, and they will sign the survey. You need to get receipts and all that from the people you're purchasing the land from, and you also need to get their signatures. In Bow, and I think for any of the outer provinces, if a family is selling to you, all members of the family who can lay claim to that land do need to sign it. So if there's 3 siblings, all 3 siblings should be signing that documentation. Also, separately from that, you have to have 3 different types of chiefs sign it: the section chief, the town chief, and the paramount chief. All 3 of them need to sign the documentation. With that, you can take it to, the Ministry of Lands? Don't quote me on that. I'll make sure I get the proper terminology. But you bring that to Freetown, and then they give you a conveyance, which basically says that they have certified that this is followed all proper protocol and is now in the system in Freetown. So you are officially the owner according to them. If you're buying in Freetown, similar process, except the fact that generally it's just the person selling it to you, but you also want to make sure the family's all, anybody who can inherit that land is happy with it as well. There's no section chief, town chief, paramount chief. That part does not apply in Freetown because they don't have those designations in Freetown. But good question, A Slime Tube. I hope that answers your question. Let me know. Oh, there's so much more on IG that I missed. Sorry, guys. Traverse is saying if TripAdvisor will be your friend. So for that question for the traveler, Traverse Culture is saying TripAdvisor would be your friend. So that's a good one. Musa says, what business would y'all recommend concerning having land in Sierra Leone? What do you mean, like to buy the land or building on the land? And Traverse Culture says, pay the cost for a great experience, but that's just me. Yes, for sure. They also said, look up a certain location or recommendation via TripAdvisors for reviews and detailed information. That's a good point. So you were asking about what area of town, and that's a great point. Okay. But talking about doing business in Sierra Leone, I mean, that's a whole conversation. That's a longer discussion if you're talking about doing business for sure. Great question. Traverse is asking, do they have freehold or leasehold? So Sierra Leone is freehold land, not leasehold, which is great. Yeah, it is freehold. hold. Musa, I'm Joe. Traverse Culture was asking me those questions. Sorry, I'm reading the comments on Instagram. So it looks like A Slime found the content so far helpful, great, and is asking any idea about investing in treasury bills or treasury bonds. I know very little about that. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I understand that conceptually. I've never done it, and I do not give investment advice. That is one thing that I have to say based on the FTC and the FCC and all of that. But just in general, I don't. I do recommend people buy land just in general. I do that, but I say invest at your own risk, right? Because every investment comes with risk, just like every commercial you see for Acorn and all that stuff. But to be honest with you, though, I think investing in land is the best thing you could possibly do. I mean, I did it in the United States, and I've done it on the continent of Africa, and I'm really excited for what's to come, because 10 years from now, well, 2 years from now, my investment in the States is going to be owned outright, and I'll be able to take my portion out of that if I decide to at that point in time, which will be great. And then the investments I have in on the continent of Africa are longer term investments, and they're more recent investments, but those I expect to be very fruitful. Okay, so A Slime 2 says, okay, no worries, I'm researching it. Oh, that's on the topic of treasury bills and bonds. Cool. Sierra Channel says, I'll wait for your experience with the contractor. My wife and I are planning to come there next year and to do some work on our land in Freetown. Okay, cool. Shout out to my selfie light. This is a great device, but unfortunately, the cord that I have is out of commission, and I don't have a power strip long enough to be able to plug it in. Actually, I do, but it's not worth it at this point in time. We're already, 90% done with the live. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I'll keep you guys posted. Tony B says, hey, Joe, I got my citizenship 4 years ago. Shout out to you, Tony B. Nice. I'm about to look into land soon. I'm a Mende and Timney. Nice. Do you still gift land to people of the same tribes? Do they still gift? I didn't know they did gift land to of the same tribes. I think that's up to some of the chiefs if they decide to do that. I'm not really sure about that. Here's what I know. A lot of times people say something is free and they don't really mean free. They might mean you don't have to pay maybe specifically for the land if you do certain things or if you make certain commitments. But I would be very careful on the whole idea of them gifting land. I'd want to see some paperwork produced on that to be clear on that. I'm not 100%. I'm not really aware of the land anyone was ever gifting. I do know people that were getting citizenship 4 years ago. There was a lot of new programs that they were planning to do. I'm not too sure all of those programs have come to fruition, to be honest with you. So just be weary of that. Sangbei says, always great information for the people. Thanks, Joe. No problem. So Traverse Culture says, I bought land back in 2014 in Kenya at 10K, now valued at 70K, right outside of Kenya. Was that right outside of Nairobi or right outside of Kenya? So I agree 100% invest in land on the continent, for sure. Come tell them the truth about land, because land on the continent is very sticky. It is very sticky. So you have to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. I would say, okay, she was saying outside of Nairobi. Okay. Yeah, you have to be very, very careful. I mean, look, well, first of all, can we just talk about those returns? Because I did say that, but I want to go back to that because I think it's really important. Sorry, I have Sangbei's comment still up. Kia Wakesho said she bought land in 2014 at $10,000. That's now valued at $70,000. So just think about those kinds of returns. That was 10 years ago. It's literally in 10 years, it's gone from 10 to 70K. Now, of course, if you're going into buying land now at 70K, you can expect that it'll be 150K or whatever 15, 20 years from now. But you're already late to the game, which is why I recommend people to buy land, not now, but right now. And look, last year, I had to pull together some resources, meaning like asking the parentals to get in on an investment, because I knew it was going to be important that land needed to be purchased. 5 acres of land for the price that I was able to get it at is just like, it's like unheard of. And so, I thought it was really important that I get that land and figure it out later. Even if, the portion that I had to come up with, I had to be creative for how I got it, which is like selling my stocks, which is crazy, but I did. I don't recommend everybody else do that, but I did it. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all, because had I not done it, I wouldn't have those 5 acres right now. Right? It's plain and simple. And so now, I mean, people are already telling me that 5 acres is close to double in value in the 1 year that I've owned it, over 1 year and a half that I've owned it. So, I mean, obviously it's hard to know if it's actually doubled, because the only way you know that is if you go to sell it. Right. But people can tell you what they think it's worth, and you can see what adjacent land, you can do comps, right? That's what real estate people do, right? They do comps. What is other adjacent land sold for at the same size and same kind of land that you have? So yeah, so Traverse Culture saying, congratulations, Joe, smart move. Thank you. It was hard. Man, selling those stocks. Let me tell you guys something. I thought I was a genius. My Tesla stock was through the roof. I bought a bunch of different companies, and I was way up there. And so I had the cash, so I pulled it out and bought some land. So, but I don't regret it. I'm so happy that I did, because if I didn't, then I would not have the land now. So, yeah. That's why I recommend it. A Slime 2 says, sometimes you have to be creative to come up with the funds. I agree 100%. You guys might remember when I first started doing live streams, I was always hydrating like crazy. That Belaco water that I was drinking all the time in Ghana. Yeah, so I didn't expect this to turn into a discussion on real estate on the continent of Africa, but I definitely recommend, for sure, 100%. I recommend buying land. It's the best thing you can do anywhere, wherever you can buy land. I mean, obviously, make sure the land has potential for growth. Here's the one thing that I will say. One last thing before we get up out of here. Okay, so Original Black Family Matters says, sorry, I joined late. Where did you purchase? The Bokenema area. And then look, A Slime 2 talked about how creative they were. They had to liquidate some HSA funds to purchase the land in Lunge. And I doubt you'll regret it. So here are some things that you should keep in mind, right? When it comes to buying land, is there going to be a location changing event? That's not really what it's normally called, but that's what I just called it. So, for example, anybody who bought land, we're talking about Los Angeles here, but anybody who bought land in Inglewood 10 years ago is really happy they did, because the Chargers, I think the Chargers are coming to play there. Whatever, there's gonna be a football stadium there, which means there's an entire team that needs a place to live. There's staff. There are people who are going to, the whole neighborhood is going to have a facelift, right? Anywhere that's on its way to gentrifying. I would also say, excuse me, anywhere right outside of a major city. Every city expands. Almost every city expands. What do I mean by every city expands? I mean this. The right by the Manhattan Bridge is a place called Dumbo. It wasn't always called Dumbo, but it's called Dumbo now. It's called Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. Because it's right next to Manhattan, they got to throw in a little Manhattan area into the name, call it Dumbo, give it a nice little name. And that land is worth way more than it was 25 years ago. Bed-Stuy, you hear that. Jay-Z mentioned that in the song, right? He could have bought a building for $1 million, and now it's worth $20 million. I think he mentioned on a song on 444. It's just like, look, every major city expands. Accra, Ghana, it went from being like two parts of what people call parts of Accra, Ghana, to now the greater Accra region is what they're calling it. So now you can encompass all these different things. You got the East Legon Hills, you got West Legon now, you got North Legon. You know, and these were named other things before, but because these are popular areas in Ghana, they're now changing the name. So a part of Tema, which is the neighboring town to Accra, is now called East Legon Hills, but it's really Tema. Or a part of Bushwick, which had a negative, you know, was negatively associated with being in Bushwick, this is in Brooklyn, is now called East Williamsburg because Williamsburg became a popular place to buy and rent. So these are just things that you want to take into consideration when it comes to deciding where to purchase land. I'm not a real estate agent, but these are just things that I've observed over time. I try my best to learn as much as I can about these kinds of things. And I always use examples in the United States and on the continent of Africa so you can understand that these things matter everywhere. So wherever you're looking to invest, however you're looking to invest, I would definitely recommend it. Of course, I recommend and I hope that you would invest on the continent of Africa. But if you decide to invest elsewhere, those are things that you should take into consideration. And look, by the way, my first investment in land was not in Africa. It was in the United States. It was in the Northwest of the United States. So so I'm not telling you that you shouldn't invest anywhere else. I just think that you probably get more bang for your buck on the continent of Africa, but you are buying in cash generally. You're generally not taking loans, mortgages to buy land on the continent of Africa. So just keep that in mind. Those are things that you are going to have to take into consideration. It looks like many more people started joining like halfway through. So I'm hoping this is resonating with you guys and this has been helpful. It's a little bit darker. I used to have a bright light on me halfway through the live. I lost it. So hope you can still see me. You can still see my eyes. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you guys are finding this helpful. If you have been, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share this with some folks who are planning to come to Sierra Leone or who want to buy land on the continent of Africa. You just heard from Kia Wakesho Simmons about her purchase in Kenya, right outside of Nairobi, and how that's gone from $10,000 to $70,000 in value in 10 years. So we're not just talking about West Africa, but we're talking about East Africa too here. And that's why the platform is called Authentic African, because you never know where the conversation can go. It started in Sierra Leone and it's now expanded elsewhere. So Original Black Family Matters says, yes, I will follow for more. My husband and I are from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and are hoping to make a move and bring our people with us. Yes, there are lots to think about. If you're planning to move to Kenya, talk to Traverse Culture. If you're planning to move to Ghana or Sierra Leone, we can talk about it. But make sure you visit first. And make sure you do a needs assessment and all those kinds of other things. Why I recommend what Kia is doing is, if you guys don't remember, was it last Monday, Kia, or the Monday before? She went through her services and she's very thorough. She'll let you know whether or not you qualify to move. And I'm not speaking specifically to you or Original Black Family Matters. I'm just saying, just in general, you know, they do a great job of just ensuring that the people who are planning to move are ready to move. Because I moved on a whim. I did not have a session where we discussed whether or not I qualified to move. And if I probably didn't qualify to move, to be honest with you. I did have money in my savings, but I had no plan for how I was going to continue to make revenue moving forward. I ended up getting a job and working at that job, but that still, which was great, learned a lot, met a lot of great people. But it definitely was not sustainable for the long term. And so here I am visiting Sierra Leone instead of living in Sierra Leone. So I learned that lesson so you guys don't have to. All right. I see some folks jumping off. I also see the questions and comments slowly dwindling down. Are there any last questions, thoughts, comments, concerns before we draw this to a close? Okay, the African Chronicle says, I know I'm off topic, but please send my regards to African Stream. Yeah, okay, we could talk about that. We could definitely talk about that. So those of you who are interested in African Stream, especially those of you, oh, by the way, many of you have joined the platform and followed and subscribed on YouTube because of African Stream. So of course, an update there should be important. African Stream still does exist as a business. They just are focused on They have a Rumble account, and they have a Patreon. So if you want to see African Stream content, they're on X, Rumble, Patreon. Not sure if they're still on TikTok, but if you want to follow them, you can find them there. Unfortunately, Anthony Blinken came out and said that they are sponsored by RT, which is a Russian outlet. I'm not sure what facts they have to back that up. And I'm not 100% sure whether that's true or not. So I'll just put that out there right now. But the folks at African Stream were very insightful and educational. And I learned a lot about the world and the continent of Africa through them. Prior to doing my live streams with them weekly, they really, really were helpful in like just getting a feel for what's happening on the continent. And so once I started live streaming with them, Inem and the team over there did we had a lot of impactful and great discussions, as you guys got a chance to follow along on those Tuesdays. So, yeah, I definitely would say, I'll send my regards to them, let them know that people are patiently awaiting their return. But it looks like their return will not be to probably YouTube or the Meta properties, Google or Meta, really, because Google, YouTube is a Google property or Alphabet. And Meta, of course, owns both Instagram and Facebook, which they were kicked off of both of those platforms as well. Original Black Family Matter says Americans always tie things to Russia if they don't want us to make progress together. That is what Original Black Family Matter says. I will say, the United States has a long and complicated relationship with Russia, mostly not a great one, going back to before the Cold War. So they can be hyperbolic sometimes, and even, I think a little bit obsessive. Some people in the United States can be about Russia. But I also say this too. I'm not the biggest fan of what's going on with Russia as well. So I just gotta be honest about that. But look, at the very least, what we talked about on African Stream often, which is probably why Anthony Blinken and friends did not like it, Voice of America included, is because what African Stream talked about a lot was although Russia's doing business with the continent of Africa, and Africa is looking to looks like they'll benefit from the work that's going to be done. I mean, they're talking about nuclear power plants. They're talking about all kinds of different things. They've invested in the grain infrastructure and exporting some of the grains and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, there are many different areas in which it would seem that Russia has been a better partner to the continent of Africa than the United States has been, I guess, ever. According to many people who are close to this topic and have studied it over time, it seems as though, except for what many might say was the founding of Liberia, but even there are people who have different thoughts about that too. So it looks like I need to moisturize the beard a little bit. All right, cool. Any questions, comments, thoughts, any more? I mean, this has been great. It's been a great conversation, and I hope you find this useful. It's all right. I get off topic. It's been a long day. I went to sleep late, woke up early, so you're gonna find that when that happens, you're gonna find an off-topic version of me. This is the closest you'll get to me being drunk, is having little sleep. Anything else? It seems like that's it. So, well, guys, look, this has been a fruitful discussion. I really appreciate you all. Thank you for joining. Those of you who joined on Instagram for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, the entire time, thank you. Those who joined on all the other platforms, I really appreciate you all. You got a couple people on all the YouTube channels. You got folks on the Facebook channels, and you even got someone on, a couple people on Twitch. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate you all. For now, thanks for watching. Oh, well, there you go. Another topic, another question. Tony B says, what do you think about buying land in Kenya? I think it's a great idea, and I would say go to Traverse Culture and check them out. If you don't know who they are, just check the last live stream I did on the platform with that says why I brought over 200 Black Americans to Africa. That live stream was with Kia Wakesho Simmons, who's Traverse Culture. You can also go to their page, Traverse Culture, as well. So yeah. But with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all on the next video.